Okay, thanks for tuning in today. You've got your teaching and learning department here, some of the members helping with today's presentation. And our plan for today is really just to think about what now? What does continuous learning look like for us as we start to think about introducing some new standards? So this looks a little different than our typical vertical teaming night. But essentially, that's what we're doing. Is we're participating in this video, and then there'll be some PLC time. So thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to give yourselves a huge pat on the back. We are just in a really unique time right now, and I can't express enough how proud I am of everybody and the work that they've put in, and it's just really been amazing. So great job to all of you. Pats on the back. Okay, so Monday, we're basically 5 weeks into this. So what is still the same? We have our remote learning guidelines that we sent out as soon as we heard that schools were going to be shut down for a period of time. So we have the Moses Lake School District remote learning guidelines that we still believe are best practices and will continue to be the guidance that we use for remote learning. So as the slide says, stay the course, keep doing what you're doing. And OSPI has since put out some guidelines also that align very well with Moses Lake School District. So just keep doing what you're doing.
And this might be a good time, if you're forgetting some of those things that were in those guidelines, to go ahead and go back, and you can click on those links. It has the platforms that we're thinking we should be using, and it has the timelines. So that this might be a good time, just as a PLC, to just refresh yourself on what those guidelines are. And I think it's awesome that OSPI's guidelines look almost identical to ours. So we are doing the right thing. Awesome.
And the only other thing I would also add to that is there were also some additional guidelines put out there for our resource rooms and life skills, and I know speech and OTPT. You guys are using some guidelines that you've developed, so just continue with those.
So what is different? The governor came on TV and said, we aren't going back at all this year. So the things that are different are going to be that we're now going to be introducing new learning, and we have to have a clear focus of what that looks like. We're still going to be focusing on our absolute #1 priority, that was making connections with kids, but we're going to be doing that with also introducing some new learning. So the rest of this presentation is going to be about, what does that look like, that new learning?
Great. So in OSPI's continuous learning document, we took this specific paragraph from that and highlighted the terms compassion, communication, and common sense, because they're so key to the work that we're doing. And when we're thinking about our students and our families and their needs, is that we're just really connecting with them using these 3 C's.
So Jeff Udick is somebody that the district has partnered with for the last couple of years to help us implement our one-to-one initiative. And he has recently actually been contracted with every ESD in Washington State to help teachers across the state implement continuous learning. One thing that he recommends is that when we think about what we would normally teach in a quarter, we're going to want to cut that down to about 25 to 35% of what we normally would do. So think about what you normally would do in a quarter, cut that in half, and then cut that in half one more time.
K-5 teachers, your task as a team is to choose 1 to 3 essential standards for both math and ELA. Don't panic, take a deep breath. At the end of this presentation, the district has provided suggestions for essential standards based off major work for each grade level. As a team, you will also need to consider the delivery, methods, curriculum, and tools your team will be using for each standard. Next, you will need to determine how your students will show proficiency for the standards your team has chosen. Please make sure your team has a clear understanding of how you will ensure that you are staying focused on the 3 C's: compassion, communication, and common sense.
All right, well, we're going to start with compassion. And when I think about compassion, the dictionary says that it's having sympathy, pity, and concern for the sufferings or misfortunes of others. And right now, all of us, families, students, and us as educators are in this situation where we're all feeling a little unsteady. And it's really important that we consider our students first and foremost, but I also want to make sure when you think about the families these students come from, and you think about yourself, we have things going on inside of us psychologically, emotionally, physically, cognitively that are affecting us in respect to this COVID virus. And so it's really important that we are kind and understanding to the situations that each of us may be facing. And knowing that our students and the world that they're living in looks very different than when they come into our classrooms every day. And our families not knowing exactly what's going on in their homes, it's important that we consider them. And also, you as the person delivering the instruction to your students and knowing that this is vastly different from things you're comfortable with, you have to be kind to yourself. So remember, our situations have changed as teachers, but our purpose hasn't. Our purpose for doing what we do and always has been our students.
Communication, the process of passing information and understanding from one person to another. This is key in the time of continuous learning. Pause the video and with your PLC, discuss how you are communicating with all stakeholders, students, parents, principals, colleagues, and your PLC in general. Are there certain platforms that you are finding work best for communication? And when will you meet weekly with your PLC to collaborate together?
Great job, thank you. I'm common sense, I guess, and common sense tells me this is going to look different. You have a little bit of professional autonomy and freedom to do things that maybe you couldn't normally do. Remember that home environment and to take advantage of it. Maybe kids are watching more TV and movies and playing video games or maybe board games. If you're working on main idea, what was the main idea of the movie maybe? Or what's the main idea of that video game? What are we trying to accomplish? Who are the characters? So building in some of those activities into what you know you're fighting with, and that's free time that those students have. So take advantage of that home environment, the card games they're playing. When you come up with maybe activities, make sure that the rule is you can't buy anything. You have to use what's at home. And if that means they go outside and they pick blades of grass or rocks from the driveway, they can use those as materials in the projects that you're requiring them to do. Remember Maslow's before Bloom's. We need to take care, everybody said it, take care of ourselves, take care of our students first and foremost, before we're super frustrated that those academic objectives aren't getting across. So use that common sense and take advantage. The home environment can be a lot of fun. And it can, I'm seeing Stefan, and can really help what we're trying to accomplish. So the next couple slides are just reminders of what's happening in our homes. So with your PLC, you're going to spend a little bit of time thinking about what can I do to meet the needs of this student. Christy, are you forwarding my slides for me?
Yep.
So there we go. as a PLC, just really great reminders of this is a student in my classroom. How can I meet their needs?
Okay, so we're just going to allow you to read through these as a PLC. Take some time to pause the message and just talk about each of these scenarios. Okay, thank you. So this slide, when Jennifer said, don't panic, when we were asking PLCs to get together and think about 1 to 3 standards that they would be focused on for the remainder of this school year. We, with the work of some of our coaches, along with input from teachers, have come up with these documents for you. So at this time, I'll turn it over to Lynn for the K-2 Literacy Essentials.
Yeah, so we have a link here. Christy, can you open that link up? That'd be awesome. Teachers, what we did is I tried to organize this so that we simplified it as much as possible and used our Common Core State Standards. We, for kindergarten, also looked at the WA Kids objectives and additionally consulted with a resource on Achieve the Core. And Kelly and I talked and discussed, as well as some primary teachers, what would be some essential standards that we need to think about between now and the end of the school year. We fully realize that these standards may be standards you've already covered, and that's where your PLC is going to come into play, where you're going to discuss the needs of your particular situation in your PLC, your grade level, and especially individualizing it to your students. This is a jumping off point for you to determine, gosh, are these some standards that would be helpful for us to help us as we begin the process of looking at new learning between now and the end of the year. Additionally, on these slides, you will see that there are some tips for instructional ideas. Many of you already have in play exactly what's working for you, and that's fantastic. We want you to continue to use those resources and those tools that you are putting up into your Google Classrooms and that you're sharing with your families and students every day. If you are in need of any other resources, obviously don't hesitate to reach out to Kelly or myself. We're happy to assist you in that manner. And this link on this document that says Achieve the Core Foundational Skills Supports actually has some great suggestions of how to make some of these particular standards interactive with our students. So consider that as a great resource as well that you can check out. So I hope that helps you get started in this process.
The 3, 4, 5 Wonders documents are all set up the same, so you can click on either one, Christy.
And Kelly, just let me know if you want me to, if you want me to scroll in a certain, I don't want to make people busy. So let me know.
I think it's okay. I just kind of go over how to read it.
Okay, perfect.
So when we talked with our some teacher leaders, this was just an option, and they said it's a great starting off point. So as you look at these documents, highlighted in yellow is the comprehension skill of the week as we continue with Wonders. In green is a coordinating Washington State standard and reporting standard. Each week is outlined with the mini lesson skills and strategies, and a lot of these will be reviewed from earlier in the year as you've taught them. On the right-hand side are some comprehension prompt examples that can be used to have students write about reading as text-dependent questions. Don't use all of them. Choose 1 or 2 or create a similar one. They're just examples and a starting point for your team. There are a variety of text-dependent questions that tie to the skill standard for the week. And then also the 3 writing modes are rotated in there. Be creative. Choose one that will let your PLC know if students understand, have a good grasp of the ELA standard without giving a whole assessment. Remember, at this time, the long weekly assessments aren't feasible for all of our students. If you have any questions or fun ideas, please share with me and the rest of our team.
Nice job. Okay, and K-5 math essentials.
So these K-5 math essentials are coming from Achieve the Core. Remember, our standards are grouped by clusters, and so that's what I've put on here. Some of those clusters are major clusters or major work of the grade, and then some are additional and supporting. So what I've done is I've taken all of the major work of each grade and I've put them onto this document. And you can kind of see at the end of each one of those cluster headings, I've noted like what that cluster's address is. And then on the right-hand side, I've collected some different math, like enrichment activities and ideas that students could do at home, or that you could have them do through the classroom, or any way that you would, that would work for you. And then finally, I would just really recommend that you stay with Ready and utilize the different resources that you have in Ready in order to address these major work clusters. And assessment-wise, be creative. Kelly mentioned maybe not using like the Wonders assessments, and I think that there's probably a similar message there for math. Find ways for students to kind of show what they know in creative ways using different tech resources that we have available to us.
Great, thanks for your work on that.
One last thing that we are asking you to do, since this is taking the place of your May 19th vertical teaming, instead of registering and what you've already done and signing in, we are having this PLC teaming count for those final 2 hours for the vertical teaming instead of meeting on the 19th. So it's a gift of working with your PLC team. On this form that we're asking you to do, that's linked on the bottom of this slide, take it. We only want one form per PLC. If you are this is the elementary, if you are a K-12 person, then you could fill out the elementary or the secondary form, but you'll just fill out the one form for your PLC team. And we will be sending out another slideshow that may be pertinent to that. If your resource room, life skills, you have a spot in here to put in the task that Jennifer had you looking at. We've tried to address all the different certified teams to fill this out. And we do have a comment. If you feel like not enough was told or you weren't able to state, there is the final question on there. You can put a comment. But if you are a specialist, you're at the Learning Services Center, you're responsible for filling this out. And also building coaches, you can count your time working together. If you're part of building coaches teaming PLC, or if you're joining another grade level. If you're unsure, fill it out, but we do only want one per PLC team. Any other things that I missed, you guys?
Well, I'll be taking the spreadsheet. So the due date for this is April 24th. And on that Monday, the following Monday, I'll be taking that spreadsheet and I'll be using the names that are on the spreadsheet to verify your attendance for your clock hours. And then I'll be closing those, your vertical teaming clock hours out, and you will have an evaluation to do in the ProDev portal, and that'll be done. So thanks for that.
Awesome. Okay, well, we just want to wrap this up. with a reminder that we're all in this together, and we're all cheering for each other, I guess you could say, with this little slide. And just keep up the good work. And I mean it when we all mean it when we say give yourselves a pat on the back, because this has been a stretch for a lot of people, and the way that our teachers and our staff are embracing this challenge has just been really impressive. So keep up the good work.